This is part one of a long series. It may take me up to a year to finish. My intention is to play through the Final Fantasy games in order of my least favorite to favorite. My reasoning behind starting with the least favorite and working from there is I may find new life and new appreciation for a game I once felt scraped the bottom of the proverbial barrel. Before you get upset, think of this metaphor. Final Fantasy is like ice cream. Your favorite may be Rocky Road, but if you're offered vanilla, you're still pretty happy, because ice cream rocks. I'll be judging the titles based on three aspects. The first is gameplay, then story, and the third I'll call the it factor, what makes the game good or not. I will never rate a game based on its graphics. Honestly, even today, in 2010, I'd play an 8-bit game if the story was good enough, like what Capcom is doing with the Mega Man series, starting with 9 and 10. If you want a review of the game's graphics, look elsewhere, because only posers care about that. We're starting today with Final Fantasy XIII. It's only coincidence that we start here, because the most recent installment now holds the position of my least favorite in my collection. Just so you know, there is no video in this review. I don't have a way of grabbing footage from the PS3 like I do my emulators from Final Fantasy IX and earlier. Just to get it out of the way, I do agree, this is a pretty game. But that's enough about graphics because it won't come back up again. Let's start with the story. Without giving away too much, you're the bad guy, although you aren't really, but at the same time you are, if you can understand that. Because of that, you're on a crash course with destiny, and nothing will let you catch your breath before getting to the end. The party is made up of 3 guys and 3 girls. The girls are Lightning, Vanille, and Fang. The guys are Saz, Snow, and Hope. Personally, Snow and Hope are 2 of the worst characters I've ever seen in a Final Fantasy game. We'll start with Snow. He spends half of the game talking about how he's the hero. Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we heard this line before? Oh yeah, his name is Balthier. But Balthier is 10 times cooler than Snow. Think of it this way, Balthier is to James Bond what Snow is to Jason Bourne. Actually, that means I'm comparing Snow to Matt Damon, whom I like as an actor. We'll say he's Matt Damon's retarded cousin. Matt Damon! By the time he finally quits acting like an ass, it's too late to care. You've got Fang, who has a higher damage output. I've rarely used him regardless of him having the highest health threshold. As for Hope, he's angry with Snow for a long time. This makes him a whiny child and altogether unbearable to be around. After he has his moment of self-actualization, either the lackluster voice acting or poor event writing steals it. I still didn't like him. He reminds me of Justin Bieber, whom I can't stand. I didn't use Hope for the longest time because I didn't like him. I still don't like him, but I reached the point where I needed him in my party because of his paradigms. Hope was made for the Japanese. They prefer their characters to be young. I believe this term is Bishonen, just like Vaughn in Final Fantasy XII was. Americans want their heroes to be like the Governator, and that definitely was not Snow. Yeah, Damon! Square Enix massively fell short in making him as likable as Bosch from Final Fantasy XII. The rest of the characters are very likable. I'd have to say my 2 favorite are Saz and Vanille. When I first saw previews for the game and I saw Saz, I thought, oh no, another black guy, here comes the Barrett Redux, a Mr. T wannabe. Surprisingly, he wasn't. Sure, he had his fair share of one-liners, and the Chikabo in his hair made him that much more likable. In battle, he's not a go-to guy though, and that made me sad. Saz's skills serve as the baseline for everyone else's stats, but that still didn't stop me from using him often enough to feel satisfied. In fact, at the end of the game I used him a lot, simply because of his synergist paradigm had the best rotation. Haste, Protect, Shell. Hope's rotation in the same paradigm wasn't as good. As for Vanille, you're probably going to say I like her because she shows her thigh, moans like a Japanese schoolgirl, and skips around like she's in an Easter parade. Well, it isn't true. There's so much depth to her as a character. Sure, she's not the best magic user in the game, but she does a decent job all around. The giggling and skipping is just a facade. The pain she holds inside helps her grow as a character, forcing her to keep on going. And in the end, that actually saves the day, but I'm not going to give away any spoilers. For a large portion of the game, you use both Saz and Vanille. I like to call this pair Chocolate Rain and Vanilla Snow.
Chocolate Rain, Vanilla Snow.
Both of them being predominantly magic users puts an added level of difficulty into the mix. Saz eventually gets the commando paradigm, but at the point in the game I'm talking about, he doesn't have it yet. There was such a complexity to that part of the game, and their combo proved to be one of the best parts of the story. As for Fang and Lightning, I could take them or leave them. Their attack power makes at least one of them mandatory to be in your party. Okay, so these characters are fighting to save Cocoon, the moon on which all but 2 of them live. Vanille and Fang come from Grand Pulse. That gives new meaning to the song. I come from a land. Anyway, for the most part, I didn't like the story, and the ending bothered me more than the story itself did. That, in turn, affected the gameplay, which is what we come to next. I think this is the part I dislike the most. Because of the story, which runs at such a frenetic pace, you don't get to visit any towns. You don't get your own airship, and the gameplay is incredibly linear. You basically run from one side of the world to the other. The pace runs at such a breakneck speed that the game seems incredibly short, even though you're racking up the hours without knowing it. Some people would see that as a good thing, but it makes you feel like you can't come up to breathe. Then, when you finally get a lull in the action near the end of the game, it hits you like a ton of bricks. In fact, it hit me so hard that I didn't play for almost a month after reaching it. The Paradigm system is the bastard child of the Gambit system from Final Fantasy XII without half of the usability. Instead of being able to customize and tailor your actions to your environment, you're left with a predetermined list of activities, and you can never give your other two parties specific instruction, only have them support you in very limited ways. That brings us to another problem. The gameplay itself is idiot-proof and broken all at the same time. The AI is either awesomely good or spectacularly bad. The good is your Ravager paradigm. It makes your other party members focus on your target. But it seems like when you switch to do something else, it gets all wonky. If there's two commandos in your group, the two commandos can't decide on which enemy to attack. And don't even get me started on the healing. Yeah, healing the person with 1,000 health down is more efficient than the person who's deep in the red and going to die if another blow lands. It's so stupid. Controlling the healing yourself isn't a viable alternative either. When you do, you have to use your attacks on a single character, while the AI controlled character casts their spells on whomever they want within the same attack chain. That brings us to the auto attack. That's why I say idiot proof. Sure, you can use your techniques the way you want, but your choices probably won't be as efficient as the algorithm set up an auto attack. Basically, the game has shifted away from making attacks to how efficiently your party works together, vis-a-vis the Paradigm system. The Crystarium, which is the system to keep up with your quote-unquote level games, is like the evil stepchild of the Spear Grid from Final Fantasy X. Entirely inefficient, the Crystarium builds and branches on itself, spiraling higher and higher. You eventually reach a point where the thing is so big and such a mess that it's annoying to apply your crystal points to it. And what's the deal with no magic points in battle? Why should I be able to spam spells willy-nilly with no repercussions? Then, it can't even stay consistent. Some of the spells are not labeled techniques. These skills require technical points, which always go up to a level of 5, meaning you can cast up to a sum of 5. Some skills cost 2 tech points, others cost 1. The sad thing is, the system for recovering these technical points is slaying an enemy, damaging an enemy, and ending battle. When you run out of TP in battle, you're hosed because it creeps up so slowly that it probably won't recover in enough time to do any good. There are no ethers to recover it either, but there is an item called an ether solve, which is a total ripoff of Xenogears that will restore you to 5, but only if you use it out of battle. I think the most infuriating thing about the entire game, though, is the new battle rating system. Your time and efficiency rank you on a series of stars ranging from 1 to 5, 5 being total win and 0 being an epic fail. The bad thing is, there's no way to determine how well you do in battle. Undoubtedly, Square Enix believes that each battle should be done a certain way, and if you don't do it the way they want and in the time they've allotted you, then you're SOL. And what's so pissy about it is it doesn't even determine your rewards in battle. It's just there to annoy you. The last part I want to harp about is how each battle is a game of chance and not a game of resistance. Yeah, you still have health that runs down if you get hit, but because this battle is speed-based, you get caught off guard. Even something that should not be able to kill you can if it attacks the main party character quickly enough. And if the main character in the party dies, you're toast. It should revert to the next party character, but it doesn't. Just lights out. And I think what made me the saddest, other than adding shitty lyrics to the Chocobo theme, is the lack of music that defines a Final Fantasy game as a Final Fantasy game. No Bridge March, no Crystals theme, no Victory theme. Almost as if this game is a screw you to the established series. In the game's defense, however, I did miss out on some things because I was so bored with it. By the time I beat it, I didn't care anymore. So I'm sure there are redeeming qualities to be found in the side quest portion of the game. All in all, there really isn't much about this game I do like, except for the Chicobo that lives in Saz's hair. I choose to call him Boko, for obvious reasons. I do believe this is the only Final Fantasy game I truly dislike, but I think I'll give it another shot sometime soon and come back with a fresh perspective on it now that I know what I'm doing. This time with a strategy guide so I don't make the same stupid mistakes I made this time around. The rating system I'll be using will be based on a total of 25 points. 10 for story, 10 for gameplay, and 5 for the it factor. Story, 6. Gameplay, 4. It factor, 3. Total, 13.